I'm interested in your work that you have been doing tracking Russian and Chinese cyber networks and their ability to infiltrate this country, but more importantly, their ability to take advantage of the citizens of the United States. It sounds like fascinating work, but I'm sure it's also leading you to some ideas about how we can do things better. What I really want to know, though, on this matter, the evidence that you are coming up with as you track these crime syndicates and cyber networks, whether they're Russian or Chinese, are you or your organization sharing that information with the Director of National Intelligence or sharing it with the FBI, or are they about doing what they do in their own silo, developing their own intelligence and not doing a comparative analysis of both? Could you speak about that for a minute?
What happens when the people uncovering foreign cybercrime don't have a direct line to the agencies responsible for stopping it? That question took center stage during a tense congressional hearing as lawmakers examined Russian and Chinese cyber networks, government fraud, information sharing failures, and the outdated laws governing Americans' personal data. One exchange stood out. The hearing then expanded into a much bigger debate over government fraud, agency silos, digital identification, consumer privacy, and whether laws written decades ago can possibly protect Americans in today's digital world. Let's get into what really happened.
Of course, thank you so much for this question. I do what I do in order to make sure that the American public is aware of what's going on there. And when I investigate, my investigations usually result in publications. I put together white papers, I put together news articles, and let the public know about what I find. Oftentimes, we will reach out to law enforcement, and then we'll simply give it to them, and then they need to make a decision with respect to whether they want to pursue investigation or not. I can tell you that in the past, we had a very strong relationship. As a professor in Georgia State University with the Department of Homeland Security, what we've done back then, that was during the pandemic time, we essentially had a monthly meeting with local folks in DHS, and we simply talked about what is it that we find out there. What is it that the DHS did with that information? Obviously, I have no idea, because oftentimes what happens is that law enforcement take this information and do their own thing, sort of speaking. And so I can tell you that I'm doing my best to make sure that everybody is aware of what I find out there, but I have limited visibility with respect to the actions folks take once I put the information out there.
Well, if I could be the devil's advocate, if I'm the Director of National Intelligence or the head of the FBI, I might say, well, he's never given that information to us. So do you forward that to them? Are you in contact? Is there a liaison that shares the information so that they can match it up with their own intelligence?
So in the past, what I was doing is essentially having a monthly meeting with the Department of Homeland Security. That was during COVID time. We had very strong relationship at the time, where we essentially provided...
Right, but I'm specifically speaking about the Director of National Intelligence and the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Yeah, I do not have relationship with the FBI. I do not stand in touch with the FBI. I'm more than happy to be in touch with them and let them know about what I know.
Yeah, because it seems like you've done an extensive amount of work, and I can appreciate white papers and editorials and that sort of thing, but everybody doesn't read, and if it's something so pertinent or hot or game-changing, those two agencies, more than anyone else, I think, needs to know. So let's pray that they're listening. They obviously are. I hope that they would take advantage of the work that you've already done just to match it up against their own intelligence. This is a very serious issue, as we all agree, and the more we can do to be effective, the better. And now I just want to come back to all of you just very briefly with respect to this notion about policy changes or about proposed legislative avenues to address some of the more glaring aspects of this, or maybe just to address things that right now are not getting any attention. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Barras, and I'll end up with you, Mr. Stanley.
Thank you, Ranking Member, for the opportunity to address this item. You know, there were a number of recommendations that I provided as part of my testimony as far as where we could be pursuing policy levers. I actually will leave with one that wasn't in there, and it's really around mindset shift and culture. And if you indulge me for just a moment, it shows you the depth of my nerd. It goes into, I was thinking actually back to the Avengers movie, the last one with Captain America, and how There was like the darkest moment where they were basically up against an insurmountable threat. Basically took all the Avengers coming together at the same time out of nowhere in order to try to combat what they were seeing or what was about to happen. I think that generally, culturally, has to change within the federal government in the sense that right now, when you're talking about who is fighting fraud within an agency or an organization, they're doing it siloed. They are doing it without sharing intelligence. They are doing it without having the types of conversations that need to happen. So much so that FEMA could be having an existential fraud threat, and they're not talking to the SBA, they're not talking to the Treasury, they're not talking to GSA even. And so there's an opportunity to basically culturally shift to say that we all have to get on the same page about what we are fighting against, and then change that dynamic so that way we can take some of these more proactive measures that I've outlined in my testimony.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I didn't see the movie, but I appreciate your context. But I'm talking now about policy more so than mindset. Mindset's going to take a while, but if we can implement minor or major policy changes, that'll make a difference right now. Ms. Cruz-Kane?
I'll go for a big one, but I think we do need to revamp the Federal Privacy Act. So the Privacy Act goes back to 1974. GAO has plugged many times in its reports that that was created way before policy and technology has updated, and we need to revisit that. But I also think that there is a great need for a consumer privacy law as well that starts at the federal level, but also allows states to have some input into it. Because of right now, there is no federal consumer privacy law, and it's a sort of framework of mismatched state laws, local laws, and there's nothing really governing at a higher level of what needs to be done.
Thank you.
Don't forget to like, comment, and hit the subscribers button for more political and controversial showdowns.